It is very difficult to be a woman in Saudi Arabia. Only the fact that, let's say, if you're divorced, your eldest son decides for you if you're gonna leave the country, and you're the mother. I mean, from that point of view, I've given birth to you. How exactly can a 16, 18-year-old boy decide for his mom's life?
Hi there.
This is Stephanos.
And Hélène,
And you're listening
to the Health Pod,
a thought-provoking, safe space
where we dare to ask the questions that no one else does. On physical,
mental,
psychological,
spiritual health.
Dr.Stephanos is a pioneer in effective neuroscience,
It's the biology of human emotions.
a psychophysiologist, and a free spirit with no filter.
Hélène is an entrepreneur and a woman's health, fitness, and empowerment coach.
You can do it!
She's a spiritually wild woman and mother of two. Join us weekly on Health Pod to hear honest, vulnerable, authentic conversations
From inspiring entrepreneurs, artists, coaches, scientists, athletes,
These individuals will share their experiences and stories
as to what it takes to really understand and connect.
to your most authentic and happiest self. Welcome to another amazing episode of Health Pod. We're here to discuss with you honest and vulnerable truths of our own personal life, and we hope that you all can resonate through our footsteps. So in the last episode, me and Hélène, we have discussed our transition from Italy, Cyprus to Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia has been a country that has kind of fast forward our life to the point where we are today, because it has given us so many valuable lessons in regards to who we are as people, where we stand, who we are as a couple. Because the difficulties usually that you face in your life are the ones that are going to structure you as a person.
Yes. Very true. We went through a lot of introspection, and there was a lot of self-awareness in order to be able to get through certain challenging
Aspects of the country.
Aspects of our internal lives at the time. We lived there for about 6 years, so we grew a lot as people and had to learn a lot. We had our kids there while we were there. I started my own business while living over there with women and helping them improve their bodies internally, externally, helping them heal, really, which was a lot of the process that I also went through as a person. I was healing myself, but at the same time, working with women that were going through the same sort of stuff at the time.
Yeah. And most of you
Sorry to interrupt you, but you have a sticker on you.
Oh, yeah. From Celeste.
From our children. Okay.
So most of you might see us right now doing something completely different in terms of what we were destined in a way, or our studies kind of led us in a different path, because I have not always been counseling people in regards to psychology, mental health, and you have not always been a fitness trainer and empowerment coach.
Yeah.
But I think Saudi Arabia has basically given us something very solid in terms of our own psychosynthesis, that we were able to also now be in the stage of our life where we can also help others.
Do you not think that that's because we got the opportunity to spend a lot of time alone?
I think that was one of the main pillars that led us to where we are today, because when you're alone, you have to deal with your own
Thoughts.
Inner demons, with your own thoughts. And a lot of people are afraid to stay alone because they cannot face the reality in their life. Because when you're chasing time, when you're chasing money or any other obligation that you have in your life, you're literally not in the now. your thought is somewhere else. You think that, oh, this is life, this is the role that I am to fulfill. But when you're alone, the only person that you need to satisfy is your inner being.
And to be happy with your own self and happy with your own thoughts and with your own time, which you kind of have to find peace with that, because there is no outside noise. And when I say noise, that could either be work or chasing opportunities or family or kids. I felt like there was a lot of time to be able to have the time to sit with myself, understand myself, figure out who I am as a woman, who I am as a business owner, what the world around me actually looks like, how it compares to what I've grown up with. Like all of these aspects of the country itself and our internal world, I think were a fantastic growth opportunity for us, that it's almost like we've lived more years than our age, because we've the experiences, the situations that we've had to be in, the challenges that we've had to face has really helped us progress and be who we are today.
Exactly. So this process of self-reflection has stabilized us in terms of what are our own personal values as people.
Yeah.
Because our transition, let's say, from Europe to the Arab world has kind of also covered a variety of insecurities or beliefs that we have accumulated from childhood to puberty. Because at that point in my life, when, I always wanted to provide for you, I always wanted to give you a better life, have our own children, be in a position to have children. And this is what Saudi Arabia has allowed us to do, have the financial flexibility to be able to raise children.
Yeah.
They came to a point in our life where we were making a lot of money in Saudi Arabia, a lot of money for the European standards, let's say, a lot of money in our own perception, yeah? We could have our luxury goods, we could travel every month, we could send our kids to the best schools. And, but still, there was something missing. And,
there was.
And that came into, it was a harsh realization that what is wrong with me? I have everything in my life and still I'm miserable. And I was going through a huge turmoil at work. I had the chair of the department wanting to terminate me, and it was a termination letter coming again and again, year after year. And there was also that instability.
Yeah, there was a lot of instability. Every year that we were there, we were wondering, will it be tomorrow? We have to pack up, close up my business, and just move on to the next place, wherever that place was going to be. Like, we were very open to moving to another country, but we didn't feel like it was ever the place we were going to stay forever.
Yeah, that's true. Although we did go through the honeymoon phase initially. The first 2 years, we were discovering the culture, we were growing through the culture of Saudi Arabia. We were also growing as people. We've seen the deep values of people there, the hospitality, the love, the way they embraced us, especially the locals, the locals that have been raised in Saudi Arabia. Because they're two different worlds over there. They're also the expats.
Yes.
That they're there for usually a short period of time, and they're there basically to make a quick gain, and not really much offer to the outside world, to Saudi Arabia as a country, and then leave. And this was not actually in our moral compass. We were there to be embraced, offer, build a family around us of strangers, literally strangers.
And also embrace the culture and learn from them. I think what fascinated us was, I remember we'd gone on holiday to Dubai, and I thought, wow, I love the sense of the Arab world. I really want to, beyond just coming here for holiday, I want to explore it. And it was very much me as a woman saying to you, let's go to Saudi, when everyone was like, do not go. It's not the place to be as a woman, as a couple. It's dangerous. It's the stories we heard were actually very much inflated. I remember they were saying, if you walk around and your ankles are out, they would whip you.
Yeah.
Things that were not true.
Yeah,
things that were not true, in fact, or that.
But you did face the fact that we were walking in a park and you had your hair out, and when the religious police was there, they came up to you and they told you, cover up, cover your hair, which is kind of not allowing you to be you, not allowing you to express yourself. You were
I don't think it was a place to express ourselves, and that was the main issue for us, because this is how we dress, this is how we are as people. We're generally even different to our own culture and our own society, right? And the way that we were raised, like, we're different. So we went into a culture, into a place where religion is above all, whereas we were raised with a very different mindset and a really different concept of how to navigate. We're allowed to question certain things. We want to be able to dress in this way and embrace it. I like to wear a bikini on the beach and have my bum out. I mean, like, that's me. That's how I've grown up. It's never been anything to be ashamed of. And again, I'm not saying that there's a right or there's a wrong. There's just how we felt at a specific time, which can be something that I feel that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah. Especially the fact that we went there also at a young age. We were inexperienced. I was inexperienced. I didn't know how to navigate my professional environment. I was just a fresh PhD student with not much of a previous professional experience. And although I did know that I was good at my profession, at least I went home every day satisfied, feeling like, you've done your best today. So whatever goes on around you, even if no one guarantees to you tomorrow, at least you've done your best. And I was satisfied with that. But definitely that instability, that lack of self-expression. And also there was never a person that actually told us, you can navigate this foreign environment in this way. You should dress this way. And even when the restrictions stopped, you still wouldn't, let's say, dress the way you are today, because everyone else was covering up. You were literally gonna be the outlier. You would attract more attention to yourself than you would want to.
Yeah, which wasn't ever the aspect of, it was getting a lot of attention from, there was so many workers there that didn't know how to behave around women, right? There was a lot of people that were of different nationality that were either drivers or maids or there for a short work period, and they didn't have the exposure to women like a lot of the Saudis that we were in touch with were people of the world that had traveled, that had seen things, that were able to understand that we were different, and that's okay. We accept them and respect them as they are. Whereas people who hadn't had that exposure, there was a lot of discrimination on their part towards us. I think you even saw that in your work.
Yeah.
That it wasn't necessarily...
There was definitely that type of discrimination, because males had a different wing than females. The female body was being dealt as an alien part of human nature, whereas male and female exist in all of us in this type of expression. And you could see a lot of aspects of toxic masculinity. It was so prevalent and so obvious that it was an aspect of me that I've kind of dealt with in my late puberty. And I would see grown men I wouldn't use the word abuse, but they had this completely different perception in terms of women. So if a woman dressed in a certain way, or if she had makeup on, or she would be thought as provocative. And this was kind of, for me, it was...
Do you think, sorry, the word is provocative, or is it that
women... From this case.
No, women dress up or put makeup on with one intention in mind only, to impress the opposite sex, where sometimes it's not the case.
It's not the case always, yeah.
It's not always the case.
You might want to feel better about yourself.
Yeah. Like when I get up and I dress up in the morning, I don't do it with the intention of trying to get anyone's attention. I do it with the intention of me feeling like me and looking like me. And it's something that also exists. I think every woman feels this, that the intention of dressing in a certain way to provoke is not necessarily, I'm not saying I speak for all women, but that's not always the intention there.
Yeah, and I understand what you mean, yeah. Definitely though, as a man, it is difficult for you to understand the opposite sex because you're not a woman.
I think you do think though, do you not? Do you feel like, I feel like you disagree with me on that when I say it as a man?
I don't necessarily disagree, but okay. I do believe that every person wants to be liked. I want to dress a certain way. I wanna portray through the way I dress my personality, which is something that this was kind of in my effort to fit in the culture. I also took out my earrings. I've accumulated the nickname of the porn star in the university because I used to dress a certain way, not because of my behavior towards my students or my colleagues, but because I used to look after my body, exercise, choose clothes that would depict my body or my personal physique. That was my own personal preference, of course. Most people, and of course, when you're the outlier, when most men cover their body with the thobe, and most women, when they cover their figure with the abaya, you're an outlier. Yeah. And even if you stand out a little bit more, then it's not that you become a target, you're becoming an object of conversation.
Yes.
It's like, why exactly are you dressing this way? Are you looking for a second wife? What are you, because I was doing it for me to feel better, because I was not in the best place psychologically. I was doing it so, today, Steph, you're putting on your armor, is your clothes, depicts your power, you're going there to give a performance. It's an act. It was a performance for me. I never felt myself, really, though. I couldn't speak openly about my thoughts.
No, I faced that as well.
I was more of the receiver rather than the transmission of my own thought, which, again, it was 6 years of introspection and self-awareness.
That's what I was going to say, that caused us to be more isolated in our thoughts, in our opinions.
Not voice the things.
Not voice our thoughts and opinions. And with that in mind, we had to do a lot of internal work and looking inside, that it would help us.
It will help us as people.
It would help us as people, and it would help us to cope.
Yes.
And be able to live there. I want to go back to the comments that you said.
So the prison was more of a mental.
Yes.
It was a mental prison.
It was a mental prison for us, as opposed to anything that had to do with how you dress or... the environment itself.
Because you do not want to offend.
Exactly. You
That
don't want to offend.
You want to be polite.
Yeah.
And
You want to respect a
you wanna
country
respect
and a religion that
exactly.
you're in.
So
and
you're
that's what we
taking
did.
a second stance.
Yes.
But these might fit specific personalities. Excuse me. But some other personalities, it does not fit them.
Yeah.
You feel suffocated.
Yeah. And I think that's what we started to feel. It took a while, but towards the end, we were just like, okay, this is not the best place for our mental health. And this is not how we want to raise our children. And teaching them to voice their opinions, to be confident women, to be men of emotion, to be people that can express, voice, have opinions, and then
Not see women as objects.
Yeah. So, and then having then doing exactly the opposite ourselves. We were going to be hypocrites in the long term. So, with that decision in mind, we had to make a decision and just say, this is not representing us as people anymore. Our cycle here has closed, and
we want to be true to ourselves.
We want to be true to ourselves, and we want to be true to our kids.
Exactly.
Our kids above all.
And especially, I think the biggest fear for me, it was our daughter. Because the Arab world is a man's world.
Yes.
Still, it's a man's world, despite the fact that there is this women empowerment movement.
Which has changed a lot over the years that we've been here. But still, there's a lot of room for growth. And I'm happy that there is change. But when you compare to where we've lived and where we've grown up, that's the kind of growth we wanted to see in our own child, in our own daughter, to be able to allow her to have
a common ground, maybe, along with
equality.
Men.
Equality. That's what we want. And I know it doesn't exist anywhere in the world anyway. It's like it still feels like there is this need for women to still try and, what's the word I'm looking for? Fight for their own equality, for their own rights. There's the need to keep proving ourselves as women. And that's something that would be great if it changes and there's progress with time, especially in certain parts of the world.
It is very difficult to be a woman in Saudi Arabia. Only the fact that, let's say, if you're divorced, your eldest son decides for you if you're going to leave the country. And you're the mother. I mean, from that point of view, I've given birth to you. How exactly can a 16, 18-year-old boy decide for his mom's life? I mean, this is like absurd. This is just should not exist.
But isn't that how, if you look, like we were watching Bridgerton the other day, wasn't that exactly the same scenario that the British used to be in?
Exactly.
Or it wasn't just the British, I'm sure it's everywhere in the world, that the older son would take that responsibility for a whole family. And that, of course, is a huge burden on a child. But as a man, he had to do that. So no emotions were allowed to take place. He had to have the respect of people that he didn't even know around him. He had to earn that respect. He had to be the honorable man. A lot of burden would fall on these men's or boys' shoulders at a time. And
who do not even know themselves at the age of 18. I didn't know myself at the age of 18. I'm still discovering myself. I'm still discovering how I change as a man and how I navigate my environment. But it's as if we've been put into a time capsule and we've traveled in the past.
Yeah.
And also seen a lot of technological advancements at the same time. Because it is a country that has a lot of technology in hand and in place to to kind of allow people to have this social the social life that they do have. I remember when the COVID measures started kicking in, you would scan a barcode. Everyone knew if a person navigated that specific place, and through an app, everyone knew if accidentally they would be in contact with someone else that they didn't even know.
Yes.
And this was amazing, and it was applied, I think, within a week.
And that was even before, like now we scan and we have a green pass or whatever we call it. But that was, we're talking about as soon as COVID began, within the first 6 months, there was a lot of tech advancement in terms of even with the traffic.
Technology, traffic, let's say if someone buys your car, everything it's electronic. There were a lot of advancements in the country, and it is a beautiful country.
I love the fact that as soon as you got a ticket, you got a message straight away. Over here, you wait for months, and then you don't even know where you actually got the ticket from. So you've probably passed 100 times more.
You know, you wanted to go back into a specific topic before, and I've interrupted you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your work environment.
Yes.
You mentioned, essentially it was bullying.
It was bullying.
It was bullying what they were doing, and they were isolating you in such a way that must have been a really lonely.
It was lonely.
And hard place to be.
It was very difficult for me. It was very difficult for me. And, you know, when you're a person, okay, I had this issue with the chairman of the physiology department. Although the dean did like me, did like my personality, he did like the fact that I always spoke my mind, that I was young. He tried to foster me. He tried to do a lot of things for me. But that came after I've proven my worth, and I kind of overworked, especially at the first 3 years. And I was never breaking even. I was like, when is this gonna change? Kept thinking, if I was in a position of power, at least I would change certain things. Because when you have the power, you have to lift people up. Now though, after 6 years, I understand that if you are the CEO of an organization, you're catering for the structure and not the individual. Mm-hmm. And it was an unfortunate event for me, yes. And I remember I was in such a bad place. I had sleepless nights, I had insomnia. I used to wake up every morning and I had anxiety. I had anxiety coming home, and I couldn't even relax. Even if the stressor was not there, even if I was not working, I was not able to relax. I constantly felt like my stomach was contracting. I used to comfort eat. I used to train every day to feel better, but still the weight would be stuck on me like glue, because when you're stressed, your body is in a fight or flight mode, so it's conserving fat. Mm-hmm. And it was really bad.
You were very angry as well.
I was extremely
full of
angry.
Anger all the time, like the smallest things you would
I remember
flip.
With our daughter Celeste, when there was one day that I was changing her diaper, and always I was rushing her. You need to get ready. We need to do this, because I was constantly thinking of what's next. I have to go to work. And I put her down and I'm changing her nappy, and she turns and told me after a while, "Daddy, why are you angry?" And I bursted in tears, because she grew up, obviously she understood that I was going through certain emotions that I could not hide anymore. And it was at that point that I've lied down and started crying, because I thought, what exactly are you doing to yourself? Is this worth it? Is this really worth it to give to your child this type of upbringing,
This example.
this example, instead of nurturing her in emotional stability. And I felt like the biggest criminal in the world. And it was something that it was so difficult for me. But at that point, I've changed. At that point, I thought, okay, this is it. You'll handle your anxiety. There is nothing you can change. You have the freedom of choice. It is your choice to be here. You cannot change people's mind, despite what you do, despite the fact that you're fantastic. Your students love you. Certain other people might not love you, and that's okay.
And that's okay. I think that's a big thing, isn't it? To
Because
accept that.
they have their own insecurities. They have their own stereotypes. Maybe the person that did not like me might have been through bullying in their own personal life. They might have seen in my face a bully instead of a person that was trying to learn, even though you were always being polite.
So we are going to have to take a break, it seems like.
So what I understood is basically no matter how perfect you are, you cannot change people's minds about you. You can do your best. You can feel satisfied with what you do, with how you perform. But certain people, because they have their own insecurities, they might not accept you for who you are. And that you should not internalize. Because when you do internalize these kind of things, you will self-destruct. And this is something that I was doing at least for the first 3 years of my working life in Saudi Arabia. Now, you've mentioned something about bullying. Yes, you are being bullied when other people cannot embrace your individuality. And there was this difference when it came to character, when it came to culture, but there was also something that they were doing unintentionally. The fact that everyone used to go and pray at a specific time of the day, I felt like an outcast. I felt left out because I also had friends and I also wanted to connect with them spiritually. And the fact that I didn't have that aspect of religion, because I didn't share their same spiritual, religious beliefs, again, I felt like an outsider. You would see the whole university being emptied, and you were the only one in the office. It was maybe me and another 2 other people in my department that they were Christians. And that was also an aspect of social isolation, which was not damaging, let's say, directly, but indirectly, you also felt left out.
Psychologically, it must have been hard to know that everyone's part of this union and without their own fault, you're being excluded. And then that's when, obviously, you are left alone with your own thoughts and questions as to what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
At that point in time.
And
which is something that I didn't have to feel as much with me, because with my own business, I felt that I didn't feel like it was my own business. So I didn't have to abide to specific times. I worked around the clock. I worked around the times that worked for me. And I was by myself. So I didn't ever feel the people around me all connecting and me feeling isolated.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how did you feel like you dealt with, what were the means that you used to come out of anxiety, anger, frustration that you felt?
The first thing I've put into place is that I understood that I shouldn't kill myself to work, because even if you do kill yourself to work, no one is demanding that from you. You are imposing that on yourself.
Because you have very high standards.
Because you have...
We, generally.
We have
you
very
and
high
I.
standards because we want to impress others most of the times, not ourselves. But life is all about balance. So one of the things that I used to do every morning when that shift happened, I started listening to affirmations. I would program my mind at the beginning. I started having cold showers, which is something that helped me a lot with my anxiety. I started exercising in the morning, and in the morning, and I've seen a shift in my mental capacity. I used to go to work, and I was able to perform at a higher level immediately. When everyone else, I'd say, was having their coffee, they were trying to wake up, I was already there performing. At night, when I used to stop working, I stopped regurgitating the problems at work. I've kind of made peace with my demons or whatever was going on in my working environment, because I understood that it is not in my control.
I think what you used to do, you used to come home and talk about everything that happened in the day that bothered you, and there was a lot. And you would talk about it over and over and over again. And there was never a solution, really. Sometimes some things just take time. And when I kind of said to you, once you come home, don't bring work with you. Leave it. Leave the problems. Leave the things that you have to do, and just focus on the present. Be here. I feel that really helped, because then you could be with us, with your family. You were not thinking about how that situation affected you, how it made you feel, how you could change it, how you can improve it. And with that, you were able to have a better work-life balance.
Exactly. So when I used to come back from work, my main priority was to connect with my children, connect with you, foster our relationship, do things with you that gave us both pleasure. And there was also the shift that happened because I know that you used to invest a lot of time on your work through social media.
I was going to mention that, yeah.
And I kept complaining because I wanted your attention. And there was also this conversation that we had, like, why don't you start putting out these things that you know or you
on
feel
you, for you, yeah.
For me,
because
on my Instagram. And
I used to do a lot of, and I still do a lot on social media, and that takes a lot of editing, filming, content writing, which is how I built my business, because I started from scratch. So I used to invest that time. When the kids would go to bed, I would sit and do this work. And that's when you were home as well. In the mornings, I had sessions. I would work with clients. I would do personal training. I would do my boot camps. And then at night, I would be my phone. And obviously, you would share. You were not able to understand or see my point of view at the time, because you hardly used social media. Like, you used it more just for, you're scrolling.
Consuming, not producing.
Not producing. So with the amazing knowledge that you have, it was the best thing for you to do, to put out that knowledge. And as we've seen, people absolutely love you.
Yeah. I'm grateful for that.
And they love your work and what you talk about. And
now, let me ask you. Yes, Saudi Arabia has gave us so much, not in terms only of our families, money, but also in terms of our own personal growth. But it has also been a country that it has been difficult for you, because I used to go to work. Back then, alone. You were alone. You didn't really know what to do with your time, because there is not this outdoors environment that you could go and have a walk on the beach, like we used to, these kind of things, right? Because we're from an island.
social life during the day.
Social life during the day. Most of your friends were working. We were just starting up.
I don't think we had many friends at the beginning. Anyway,
we didn't have anyone, I think, at the beginning.
We didn't have anyone.
And it was you and your thoughts and
I didn't even know what I wanted.
Yes.
What I was.
And you were going through a difficult time.
Yeah, I was. It seems like I've had a lot of those. I was going through a difficult time because I was doing a little bit of training before in terms of personal training, but it wasn't something that I had done as a full-on business. So when I had gone to Saudi Arabia and I was wondering, I thought it would be great if I was to be able to use my degrees as a surveyor in finance to be able to get into a world over there that has the potential of great expansion. But I found it really difficult as a woman to even get my foot in the door and even get an interview. It's a very male-orientated world, especially, it generally is anywhere in the world, but especially over there, where, you know, as a woman within finance or business, a foreign woman so there's many obstacles that make it incredibly difficult. So that's when I really invested a lot more into my hobby, which was me being an athlete since, you know, the age of 13 and knowing so much about physiology, anatomy, and how to improve the body and the mind, improve the mind through the body. And that's when I remember I thought, you know, I need to take this even more seriously. I'm going to do courses. And I used to fly back and forth to Dubai to get accredited. Not that I couldn't do it and I couldn't train from before, but I thought it only right that I gain a qualification and gain knowledge around it in order to be able to teach people in the right way.
How did you gain that qualification?
What do you mean?
I remember that obviously you started training. What was the turning point in your life that you find a sanctuary in your body and from your body to your mind? What made this shift inside of you that you've decided, okay, I'm gonna make this a profession. What was the path that you followed?
I'm not sure which aspect you're trying to get me to refer to. Mm-hmm. But for me, what I found is something that we've mentioned in previous podcasts as well, is that when I myself was going through depression and I felt isolated, I was going through depression, I put on 10 kilograms, and my way of improving my situation was connecting to my body through going to the gym and feeling healthier and stronger and alive. I then felt that my mind was also improving, and the way that I thought and the way that I saw life and my relationships around me and the relationship that I had to myself. So when I saw what it could do to me, that was the first instance. Then I knew that was the way to help other women. So when I was approached by women in Saudi saying, you know, you look good, what do you do? That's when I found my hobby, to say, that turned into a profession, and setting up my own business. And I realized that, okay, well, if this is knowledge that I have that people wish to pay for and learn more from me about, then yeah, I would absolutely love being able to help women and support them and encourage them and transform their lives and really change a perspective of themselves that when they first used to come to me, they used to say things like, I really want to go for liposuction. And I want to change this part of me, or I want to go and do a gastric bypass so I can stop eating as much. What do you think? Do you think I should do that and then come and exercise? And of course, my answer was always no. Try exercising first, get your body to where you want. And if you see that you can't do it yourself, then you can rely on other measures.
It's like taking medication or going to psychotherapy straight away.
Yeah, as opposed to finding because it's your own power. And when women would train with me and they would see through the boot camp and through personal training and through obviously me coaching them mentally, that really they thought that the problem was something on their physical appearance, but at the end of the day, they knew that if they internally felt better, even if there wasn't that much change externally, which there was a lot of change, there was huge transformations on women, but even if there wasn't, they realized that it's how they felt internally that really made all the difference in them. And I remember women telling me, and they still tell me that there's some of my clients, I used to have hemorrhoids and I would go to so many doctors to try and heal me. I was on antidepressants. I came off them because of you. I'm so glad I didn't go through liposuction because my body's actually much better. And I realized that I'm also healthier because if I was to have got the result that I wanted, I would have never been firm. I would have never felt healthy. I would never be able to get down on my knees and play with my kids, pick up the shopping, go up the stairs without panting and feeling out of breath. Like, these are all the aspects that exercise and physical activity and connecting to your body give to you, that if you use any other means of trying to feel good, you're not going to get the same results. And with that in mind, I became very known for being able to transform women's bodies without having to do procedures that would not necessarily be in their benefit. Of course, Saudi Arabia and the Arab world is huge on, fillers and
plastic
surgery and changes, which are great improvements too. And I'm very for them as well.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it's there's nothing wrong with it at all. But I think when it comes to you finding health through these things, you won't find health. You will find certain bodily, facial improvements, and then you will still feel a certain way. So the transformation that these women would have was actually internally changing. Although they would come to me for an external issue, internally they would change. And with that, they felt that, wow, my life has changed, not just my body.
Because, exercise has such a positive impact when it comes to mental health, because it raises all those chemicals that are so important for the healthy functioning of the brain. You have noradrenaline that kind of allows you to move. You have dopamine that allows you to pursue your goals. And you have also the release of endorphins, which comes as a form of a natural painkiller. So if you're feeling depressed, and even if you're not feeling depressed, exercise is a fantastic way to protect your mental health and also allow you to come out of depression. Because I do remember a point in our life when you were feeling very bad, that I used to bring you flowers and you would take those flowers and chuck them in the bin because you did not feel, which is something that you would never do now. But a person that is going through depression is not appreciating even the simplest things. There are outbursts of aggression. There is this effort of your family trying to get through to you, but it is almost impossible. But it does come a point where you come out of it.
For some people, I think
I'm
very
yes.
lucky to have been able to come out of it. And I have to say that I think there was such a lack of self-love towards myself that I couldn't even see the love that you were giving to me.
So it is natural for every person in their life to go through sadness, extreme sadness, if we can call it that. And there are difficult times in life that there are certain situations that you cannot navigate and handle, and they throw us off balance. And everyone in their life they will have a point that they will feel weak. And it is important that the people that love you, they're around you to give you that support. But most people, and I consider myself lucky in that aspect, I can understand depression. I can understand what the other person is going through. And it is not your loved one's responsibility or fault because their child, their partner is going through depression. It's not everything about you. It's a person that has to come out stronger through this test of depression.
That's what I was going to say to you, that no matter what you did, until I was able to...
Until you put your trainers on.
Yeah, until I was able to figure out what it is that I needed to do in order to love myself, appreciate myself. No matter what you said to me, no matter what people around me told me, it was all about how I would feel. And the time that you're referring to was a lot to do with postpartum depression. It was after I had Celeste. We lived in a country where I had a baby and I didn't even know what to do with it. I had the baby here, and then 2 weeks later, I flew to Saudi Arabia. Actually, when we had the baby, you had to leave. And...
It was...
Yeah. I gave birth, and the next day you left.
Which it's an indication that if a partner is absent after a woman delivers, psychologically, emotionally absent, or physically absent, the woman will go through a phase of depression because prolactin, which is a hormone that has to do with nurturing the child, is also being secreted in the man and is also fostering the bond between a man and a woman.
Wow, that's incredible.
So there's such a synchronicity in terms of the hormones of a man, the drop of testosterone, so that the couple can nurture that child. And even if you do have the support of your parents, of your family, no one can substitute your loved one, your partner, your husband, your wife. And couples that do not have this bond between them, women are 50% more likely to go through postpartum depression.
And this is based on studies, isn't it?
If their husband is absent.
Yeah.
So it is something very important that both the man and the woman should be present when the child is delivered.
Are you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that my way through getting better again after having my first child, Celeste, was exercise. It was exercise, but it was also saying, this is me time. It was prioritizing me. And this is what I teach women, that when you come onto the boot camp, that when we train together, there's nothing else. There is only this moment. This is the time for you. And you need to make that time throughout the day for yourself in order to be able to know that, yeah, it's selfish time. That's what I call it. It doesn't matter. It's you first and then your kids. Because if you're not well, there is nothing that you can do for the people around you. If you don't have time to exercise, that means you're telling yourself you're not worth it because your health is first. If you don't have time to be able to do the things that you want for yourself, you're subconsciously telling yourself you don't deserve this. So it's really important for women, mums out there, to carve out time for themselves. If that's your exercise and that makes you feel good, good. If that's going for a coffee with your friends, do it. If that's taking a break altogether, do it, because we need it. And it needs to become more acceptable, and there needs to be less judgment around it in order for women to be able to feel better and understand that they are also supported, and it's okay for them to do things for themselves without feeling guilt around it, that they haven't put their husband first and they haven't put their kids first. And me, of course, making time for my business, making time for myself to exercise and train was exactly the way that step by step. And there were days I remember were really, really hard to even put my trainers on and exercise. It felt that I was a brick wall and there was no way that I was going to be able to get through a workout. Even putting my trainers on felt like such a struggle, but I did it. And I would go downstairs to the treadmill and I would just like start walking. And then from walking, I would feel like, yeah, I feel a bit better. I want to run a little bit more. Now I run, I'm going to sprint a little bit more. And I would push myself in not a destructive way, push myself because I knew that it was going to make me feel better. And then through that, it was, yeah, yesterday felt good. I might try the same thing today. There was no obligation to it that I had to do it, or, you know, I've eaten this, so I have to do this to make up for it. No, it was a form of self-love. It was a form of showing up for me and telling myself, I honor you, I love you, I respect you. You are worth this. You deserve this. And every day that I would do it, I would feel empowered, I would feel strong, I would feel motivated. And with that power and strength, I would find the same strength within me to be able to give this to the women around me.
You know, I admire you because hearing you speak right now, it's like I'm reliving all those difficult moments that you've been through, and the fact that you worked on yourself to come out of this stronger. And it's something so admirable to have this will for life, to have this hope to get better. Even if it's difficult, you're trying and you're showing up for yourself every day, which it's something that we rarely do, even now, because we came back from Saudi Arabia, and in a way, there's no time to look back or to. There's always a time to allow yourself to connect, to do the things that you love, but most of the times we prioritize other things, which we should not do that. Because it's like you're burning a candle from two sides. It's work, it's yourself, it's your own time. Eventually, the candle will burn, and it will burn you. And it will burn that rope of life that is holding you to life. And we should always fuel back that candle, and we should always nurture ourselves so that that flame for life constantly keeps burning.
And that's through making time for yourself, making time to look at the sea, enjoy the sea, smell the flowers, watch your kids grow up, enjoy the moments, which I've got to confess, within our daily lives, we don't do enough of that. We don't do enough of that. Very small fragments, and it will lead to burnout.
In fact, if you ask me, unfortunately, modern life is built in this way, but 50% should be for your obligations.
Which include work, even if you love work.
Yes, and the other 50% should be your own self-love time. And this comes through specific pillars. And one of the pillars that I see in my office when we talk about the journal of life, that a lot of people are lacking, is the love that you give to yourself, creativity.
Yes.
There are very few people that have creative aspects in their life. And when we mean creativity, it could be something simple, taking a mandala and just painting it in. Poetry, music, theater,
knitting,
gardening, aquascaping, cooking. It's creative. Because through this process of creativity, you're in a phase of flow. And even when you go into a state of flow, when you're enjoying something that you're doing, and I'm not talking about exercise now, right now, I'm talking about any other thing creative that you're doing, dopamine is also being secreted, which is one of the things that is lacking in depression. We have not only serotonin, that has to be, it's the happy hormone as we call it, but it's also dopamine that allows you to pursue life and pursue your goals. And this is also something important because through these daily activities that you're doing, you're basically training your brain to function in a specific healthy way through the neurochemistry of your body. Now, I want to jump into another topic that
I was really enjoying this one.
we've kind of been through in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And after Celeste, we wanted to...
It was before Celeste.
It was before Celeste, yes,
Ooh.
that we had a miscarriage.
Actually, it wasn't a miscarriage.
Yes, okay.
The aspect of that was that we wanted to have a baby, right? Yeah. And that was before Celeste. So when I stayed pregnant, we were thrilled. And because we had such good insurance, alhamdulillah, as they say.
It was before Celeste.
It was before Celeste. We thought we'd do this test to figure out the gender. But when they do this test, they test like if the baby's okay, if they have the right, was it chromosomes?
Chromosomes, yes.
Yeah, okay. And when the results came back, like in the 13th week, we had discovered that there was an anomaly.
There was a chromosomal anomaly, yeah.
There was an anomaly. And,
which, when the child was gonna get born, it was unsure whether that the life would be able to be sustained.
Yeah, or if the pregnancy would even manage to go to 40 weeks because there were certain complications that were going to potentially arise. And at the time, of course, it was so hard. It was so hard because we were so excited about having our first baby. And obviously that wasn't gonna come. And
it was a blow. It was a blow for our life because we wanted that child a lot. Because this is also one of the primary reasons that we went to Saudi Arabia, because we wanted to have a family. Yeah. And
I think the difficulty around that was that besides, obviously, you get really excited about having a baby, and so many women have miscarriages or have to terminate pregnancies that are not spoken about. And we had to do it in a country that termination and abortion wasn't even allowed. So my doctor at the time said, you need to leave Saudi Arabia. You have to go to your own country to do this. And I was already at a stage where, it was borderline.
It
was too progressed.
Third or fourth month, I don't remember.
It was 13 weeks, roughly.
13 weeks.
So, but when we had to fly to Cyprus in order to terminate the pregnancy, because that was a decision that was in fact made by my own doctor. Within Saudi, you were not allowed to have a termination. And we had to come over here to Cyprus and proceed with what we had to do necessary. So not only was it emotionally really hard, it was also something that we had to keep very private. And I remember even feeling shame around it and not being able to tell anyone about it. And when I had come to Cyprus, I even remember lying about it to my own friends because I felt like I had done something bad.
It was unfortunately something that had to be done because, as I said before, you bring a life on this earth and you want it to live and prosper. And based on the results that came from the genetic test, we were unsure if that pregnancy would lead to term, if you would have a miscarriage, and in the occasion that the child was born, we wouldn't know if that child was gonna be able to be sustained in life.
Yeah, and even if my own health was at risk, I remember the doctor saying. So
yes, and also that. So
anyway,
in that aspect, there was also something else beyond this. There is also the fear of the parents feeling that, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah, of
Can
course.
I have another child?
Yeah.
And after going to the Institute of Genetics and speaking with a geneticist over there, they told us that literally this is a 1 in a million occasion. You do not have any genetic anomaly. It was just bad luck or the bad occurrence of the fusion of the ovum with the sperm that led to this malformation in the genetic blueprint. And there is no shame around it because later on we did have Celeste, and after that we did have Nerea.
Yeah. I just want to touch upon that because I think women generally are made to feel that there should be, there is not enough spoken about on this topic. So even me having the psychological support from anyone, I felt like this was my own burden and I had to take on and not talk about it as if there was a taboo around it. But I feel like there shouldn't be. I feel like there should be less shame around this, less guilt that parents should feel, and to try and work with those emotions and understand that if something's not spoken about enough doesn't mean that it needs to be hidden. Because I know so many women that have reached out to me when I mentioned on my social media accounts about my own
miscarriage,
termination, that they feel alone, they feel isolated, they feel that they can't speak to anyone about it. There are not...
There's this guilt and shame.
Yes, there is. Whereas it needs to be a little bit more open and acceptable and have the right support in place to be able to speak about these matters.
And it should not be a taboo.
It should not be a taboo, no.
And one of the good things, at least, that modern medicine has is our ability to recognize if a child will be able to be happy in this world, and its soul will not be tortured by its body.
Yeah.
So it's something hugely important over here. Now, I would like for us to close this episode.
I was gonna just tell you, I think it's time we stop chat.
And I would like to say that for those of us that are watching us today, that we're super grateful to Saudi Arabia we're super grateful to the people that supported us during our transition to Saudi Arabia. One of my dearest friends, Ahmed Al-Kahtani, who has supported us a lot during our period over there and kind of told us certain things as they are and understood us for who we are and helped us a lot in many, many occasions in our life.
My clients, people who have supported us in that aspect as well, that have become friends as well, that have always been there for us. The country itself has given us a lot, and we've learned a lot.
A lot. It's like we've lived
So,
2 lifetimes
yeah.
over there, and we're super grateful for that. We're super grateful for the lessons that we got, painful ones, positive ones, it doesn't matter. Those are lessons, and we're super grateful to everyone that has made us the people that we are today. Thank you all for your love.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. See you soon.
Ciao. Love you.